Welcome back to the House of Faith and Fashion, Season 1 finale. I'm so excited to introduce you to my guest of the day. She hardly needs an introduction. She is arguably the most quoted in the fashion publications in the entire industry. She's award-winning creator of New York Fashion Week, which, oh my God, I can't wait to get into that. She's a best-selling author, inspirational public speaker, host of her own show, Fashion Icons with Fern Mallis, president of fashion and design consulting agency Fern Mallis LLC. You know, I'm exhausted just saying all that. So please welcome the fashion godmother, Fern Mallis. So excited. I can only say it in Jewish words. I'm plotzing that I'm doing this. I'm so excited. Really, really, really. The audience may not know that I first met Fern Mallis attending the 100th birthday party of our late, great Iris Apfel. And my mother-in-law, Mama Donna Schneier, ran over to you and started bragging about her daughter-in-law that wrote a book called The House of Faith and Fashion. I don't think you really understood what that meant, and you politely asked for a copy of the book. But I have to tell you, this episode is all about gratitude, because I think that, you have to have gratitude for the people that you are surrounded with. And I have the utmost gratitude to you that I'm not going to say the quote, but you labeled me the fashion rabbi. And really, I thank you for that from the bottom of my heart. But could we do a quick style check? Because I have to brag. Are you wearing anybody special, any of your wonderful designers that you've interviewed and your gorgeous jewelry?
Actually, I'm not. I'm wearing one of my favorite turtletnecks, though, that I have in lots of colors this season from J. McLaughlin.
Oh, okay. That's a great staple.
Which is a fun store to me. And
absolutely.
One of their key executives lives right next door to me, so I'm very into them. And I'm wearing a couple of, this necklace is dangling down below, but it's a little bit of a quartz and an F from Lulu Frost, who's my friend Lisa Salzer, and my little skull that opens up, the mouth opens. I don't know if you could see that.
I can. I'm looking. I'm going really, really close. Yeah. Well,
that's from Solange Azaguri Partridge, who I adore.
Oh, I love her stuff.
And this necklace is something that I found maybe for $1 or less in India in a basket on the street in Mumbai.
That's so very Iris Apfel. Actually,
yes, exactly.
Yes, absolutely.
I'm in India all the time.
Yeah, she was wonderful. But I have to tell you that I am wearing Kobe Halpern straight from the runway of fall 24. Fern, I was so inspired by you coming on, and actually so nervous that I called up Kobe and said, "You got to dress me for the finale. I got to make sure that I look good." So thank you so much.
Fabulous.
Thank you. Thank you so much for stopping by. I know that you're so busy, Fern, and I know that you're doing so many things. But can you tell us first, let's talk about your book series and what you're working on.
Well, the book series I'm very proud of. I have 2 books on my series, book 1 and book 2. This is the boxed set that was sponsored by Nordstrom. Yes. And it has all these great illustrations of all the all the designers and professionals that are in book 1 and 2. And the list of designer names is rather impressive. And there is Iris at the top.
Rather impressive is an understatement. My daughter ran to buy this. I have this 2-set series back in New York. It's a beautiful book. They're beautiful.
That represents just like a fraction of the people I've interviewed, because the series is in its 13th year. Wow. And I've done about 65 of them now. And I've been talking to Rizzoli, so we're waiting for another response from them, and they're all for it. We're going to start book 3. And there's enough interviews that haven't been published yet for book 3 and book 4. But the series is great. I just did a couple of weeks ago the men's designer Todd Snyder. Mm-hmm. And next week on the 17th, I'm very excited. I'm going to be talking with Jenna Lyons.
Yes, I saw that in your series. By the way, I think she is the most fashionable of all the housewives.
Oh yeah,
I love her style.
Personal style. She's
it.
A true trendsetter, and that's what made her such a success as president of J. Crew, and where she worked for 27 years.
That's great. How do you select who makes the cut for your book?
The fashion icons that I've interviewed to date have all been, almost obvious in many ways. You know, it started with Norma Kamali was my first one. It was a good friend. And then the second one was Calvin Klein. And when I interviewed Calvin, I said to him on the stage, why are you here? You sold your business 10 years ago. You have nothing to sell, and you're not, hawking a new fragrance or anything. And he said, I'm here because you asked me. And I said, oh, what a good answer.
That's a great answer. But
after I did Calvin, it really opened the doors for a lot of people. So, it all fell into place. Donna and Tommy Hilfiger, Tom Ford, Michael Kors, Marc Jacobs, DVF, Andre Leon Talley, Bill Cunningham. It's a spectacular group. The second book has more of the international designers. I kind of went overseas for that one with Valentino, and Victoria Beckham, and Rosita and Angela Missoni together on the stage, and Zandra Rhodes is one of my favorites for so many years. And that one also has Billy Porter, and that one has Iris in the book, and Stan Herman and Tim Gunn, Christian Siriano, and since then I've also done, a ton of people from Prabal Gurung and Joseph Altazara, and Brandon Maxwell, that kind of younger group of designers, and Christy Turlington and Linda Evangelista, and I've done Cindy Crawford and Ashley Graham. The models.
Keep going, Fern. This is like the most glorious answer. But I have to tell you, who if you could pick a favorite, who would that have been? Or a series of favorites, because how can you narrow it down? All those names, how can you narrow it down to just one?
Yeah, it's really hard to narrow it down. I mean, Valentino was great. He was so clever. And, he said to me on the stage, he said, I think I tell you more than I ever tell anybody anything. I think I'd have to tell you what underwear I'm wearing. And I said, please tell us.
Wow.
But, one of the most moving interviews was the photographer, Bill Cunningham, who is such a loved icon in the industry and missed so much. Because he was such a private man and he hated any publicity. It took me forever to get him to agree to talk to me, and he's been a dear friend. And it was moving. It was, people cried, and everybody who was at that one still to this day says, what an epic experience. They'll never forget being there. And talk about industry people. One of my favorite interviews was with Leonard Lauder. And how he built that brand with his mom.
Yes,
and
that's right.
All of the people I've interviewed all came from nothing. They were not handed the keys to the business by their father or mother and said, okay, I'm retiring, it's time for you to take over. They built it from a dream and a passion from dressing Barbie dolls in their basement to having, a little thrift shop that they created to who knows what, till they just persevered and pursued and built their business. And that's what these interviews are about in my series. It's not about this collection versus that collection.
Right.
It's about who are you? You're more than a name on a label. Tell me about your parents. How did they meet? Your siblings, where you grew up, going to school. Right. Tom Ford talks about being kind of bullied going to school, and he would wear a little jacket and he carried a briefcase when everybody else was wearing backpacks, and how that evolved in his life. Each of the interviews they all reveal something that they wind up saying to me, I never told that to anybody, or they say, how did you find that out? How did you find that out? And it's just from the research and reading about them and talking to friends and colleagues.
So Fern, you opened the door for me. Who are you, Fern? And how did you build your dream?
Well, I wasn't ever sure what my dream was. My life and career just evolved organically. I grew up in Brooklyn when it was not the coolest place on the planet.
Exactly.
And my dad was in the garment center, in the garment industry. He was a salesman for women's scarves.
Wow.
Two brothers were in sportswear and textiles. So, I kind of grew up listening to all those conversations. Every chance I had for a day off from work, I went to work with my dad. And I loved watching him be Mr. Charming salesman, talking to the buyers and the fashion directors of stores, and taking them out to lunch, and he'd include me to lunch. And, it's how you learn to order good food and be part of the conversation.
Yes.
And watching him do his work. And he always brought home Women's Wear Daily all through my life. So I was always reading the paper, and that kind of got me, my foundation in the business. And then in college, when I left high school at Madison High School, where I won the fashion design medal and best dressed in school. And,
no surprise.
And that's a school with, a couple of thousand students. And I went to the University of Buffalo, and I joined Mademoiselle Magazine's College Board when that magazine was a great magazine. one of the best Condé Nast magazines. And from the College Board, I continued on with submitting a project to go up in the competition. And I was happily selected as one of 20 guest editors.
Listen, you know what? You had a great start, and it's, for anyone that's has any memories of what we'll call it the schmata fashion business used to be on 7th Avenue, and what the meaning of a print ad, before social media, you're a giant. And what is remarkable for me is how you've stayed relevant. And that's so important, because some people can't adjust and stay relevant. So, kudos to you that you have what I call it now the eternal relevance, where you can go from generation to generation and still be cool and still be taken seriously.
I still can't figure out how to use all the features on my phone, or how to do everything.
I don't even know how to set this. Can you believe that we're filming electronically? So it's like, this is also not normal. Like, exactly. Where's the set? So thank God for this kind of stuff. But it's great that you went from, people have to know that you were the creator of New York Fashion Week. It was under the tents in Bryant Park. I interned there. We used to that was the coolest destination that anybody wanted to be. But
getting into those tents was like people who talk about going to Studio 54. You had to be there to really appreciate what that meant, and what that energy was, and what that high was of walking up the steps on 6th Avenue, and people watching from ropes on the side, like who's going in and who's coming out, what celebrities are there, look at that model. Getting in there was like
it was the most exclusive. It was the most exclusive ticket in town, and you couldn't. And even if you tried to get it, you need to know somebody or the designer to get in. There was no such thing as actually having a cell phone and filming it while you were there. You had to wait to see if you got into the Front Row magazine or your pictures made it into Women's Wear Daily. So I do remember those times, and I remember them fondly, because I think social media has taken a little bit of zhuzh away from that. Fern, I could talk to you for hours, and I just want to tell you, the one interview that meant a lot to me that you did, and I cried, was Christy Turlington. No, not Christy Turlington, Linda Evangelista. Linda Evangelista, I'm sorry. Linda Evangelista, talking about, the models that were the mega models, supermodels.
She also talked about the amount of surgeries she's had, and she shared that very openly. And all the scars on her body she sees as honors and medals of what she's been through. But when she talked about the last part, which got me as well, was I read back to her quote that she had given to the Wall Street Journal, and it was about her third cancer diagnosis. And and I said, that's pretty heady stuff. And she said, I have a hole in my chest. She said, and it's friggin' fat, friggin' gorgeous.
Yeah.
And the place went crazy. And the 92Y did a social media clip of that, of her speaking and saying that.
It was very, very powerful. Really, really powerful. So, thank you for facilitating that and putting an environment in which you felt so comfortable to say that. I could talk to you for hours. I have 3 rapid questions to wrap this up. So here we go. How much faith do you need to be in business?
As much as possible. You never can have enough faith.
No. Do you think your talents are God-given?
Yes, to a degree, but they need to be cultivated here on Earth, around the people that you live and work with, who nurture that.
Good answer. And here's my last one. Please describe how a person should dress to a house of worship.
Well, I'd say respectfully and appropriately, but appropriate means something different to everybody. But, I would hope that you're not coming in with, ripped jeans and tank tops, and be smart.
Thank you. You're
a fashion rabbi, so.
I'm the fashion, and I want you to know something. I didn't even ask you how you got to be the fashion godmother, but I could just imagine. How could you not be the fashion godmother?
Somebody called me that, and it stuck.
It stuck. You stuck the fashion rabbi, and then it was confirmed. So I feel like I got my ordination. So I'm really grateful for that as well. And being that this whole season finale is all about gratitude, thank you so much for joining us. And next we have Surigeta, all the way from Paris. We'll be right back.
You're watching the Connect Network TV on the CW.